and welcome to Art Driven Roads. Welcome to this kind of short overview of the 2021 Ford Explorer Limited. It's going to be short because I'm literally running out of light. It's sunset. So anyway, let's get into it. I'm gonna say shortly that when you get to drive some of the modern SUVs, even family SUVs with 3 rows like this one, you start to appreciate how far the modern SUVs came, they evolved, because even though it's a big vehicle, 3 rows, lots of space, just like everyone wants, it still feels pretty agile and nimble on a road, which is very surprising. I mean, visibility wise, yes, you feel like you're in a truck, but on the road it feels pretty edgy, I would say. So big credit to Ford for that. And again, speaking about how it feels, even though this is a limited trim, this particular car comes with the 4-cylinder 2.3 liter turbo, which is roughly good for about 300 and something horses. It's pretty punchy on the low end, but it runs out of steam pretty fast when you try to accelerate on a highway, which is fine. Exterior looks pretty good. It somewhat reminds you about the previous generation, but overall I think it looks pretty sharp. And even though it's as long as a minivan would be, it doesn't look like a minivan. So, and this is what mostly people are looking for in modern SUVs. So looks wise, it looks pretty good on the exterior. On the interior, it looks even better. You start to see how important Explorer is for Ford. Ford sells a lot of those, and they put a good effort to make it really competitive. And it is. There's still a lot of black piano plastic, which is dirty and filthy and disgusting. But other than that, it's laid out pretty well. Those handles kind of look like they're out of a F-150. So I guess this adds a little bit of that utilitarian look to it. But other than that, it feels pretty good. The spacing is pretty good as well. There's a ton of space. Forgot to mention, there's even a wireless charging pad here on the side of the armrest compartment, so you can charge your phone. You have a lot of space in front, although there's like little cubby here, I guess, which is, I feel like it's kind of useless. I mean, you can still stuff it with something, but because this covering panel of the space underneath it is kind of made of a matte plastic, I feel like it's gonna scratch and the things will slide if you put something on top. But that's a minor issue. Overall, space is really good. It doesn't feel dated. Of course, there's a bunch of space in the back. You'll have to watch other reviews to get a better feel of how spacious this thing is. I'll say it short is very spacious. If you look in the back, it's kind of the same length you would have in a minivan, but because it's an SUV, there's a compromise. Not all that space is all that usable compared to a minivan. So, I mean, you're just choosing what do you want more. Few words about infotainment and driving modes. The infotainment is pretty good. I drove Fords before. It works pretty fast. It connects very well. One thing I've noticed here, and I haven't noticed in other cars, is that if you connect the Android Auto navigation, Google Maps, whatever, some of the navigation tips will appear on the main screen, on the gauge cluster screen as well, which is something unusual because you normally would see duplicated information only in the situation when you're using the factory navigation, not when it's combined with the Android Auto. So that's a cool thing. Overall, ergonomically is really well thought out, I would say. There is a dedicated button on the side for lane keep assist, which is really nice. If you want to turn it on, you just click it on the side. It's on. If you want to, oh, look at that! It's a little mouse. That's so cute. Anyway, you have a dedicated button for it. You pressed it, it's on. Depressed it, it's off. You don't have to go through the entire menu to search for this feature to turn it off if you don't need it. The 360 camera, this is a pretty cool feature, and it really works out well here because this thing is pretty big. Even though handling wise it feels relatively small, visually, and I mean you can see the hood in front of you. I mean it's nice to have this 360 view camera. It really helps out with the parking and understanding better where is your car compared to a curb or something like that. So it's really helpful. A few words about driving modes. Now, there's a bunch of driving modes. Honestly, I just think it's marketing because it's not like I pushed this car all that much, but I was looking for trouble. So I got into some snow on a hill. Uh, at some point, I went into some like off-roady field, grass, whatever, and honestly didn't notice any difference between normal mode and deep sand or deep snow mode or trail or something like that. It feels like, I mean, I'm not saying that in normal mode the car does not drive well or does not pass through all the difficult conditions. I'm just saying that it does well in normal mode without you needing to like go through different modes. Of course, probably if I would have got into some heavier off-road conditions, maybe those modes would have helped. But keep in mind, this is not a premium or luxury car. It's still under $50,000, more or less, depending on the trim you're choosing. So it doesn't have some sophisticated suspension with, I don't know, with airbags or some adaptive, I don't know, suspension, you know. So it still relies on the electronics to manage the traction and the power delivered to the wheels. So honestly, the drive modes, they just look cool when you're switching between them, but realistically, I didn't notice any difference. I would expect the eco mode to be kind of make the car slower a little bit. You know, if you press on the gas, it's still not gonna accelerate that fast. It's gonna keep the RPMs under, let's say, 2 or 3,000. But no, it was just accelerating like in any other mode. Same thing with the sport mode as well. So yeah, overall the car performed pretty well. Every time I was trying to get into some deep snow or no one else drove before me or trying to climb a hill, the car wasn't really struggling. It was climbing pretty well. So, I mean, in this situation, the four-wheel drive works pretty well. I'm surprised, and of course, although this is not a Wrangler or some specific off-road vehicle, it's still good enough for light off-road or I don't know if you go camping or hiking and you have to get into some harder to reach areas. This will be perfect for that. Overall, I would say this is a really nice SUV. I'm not going to be nitpicky because, as I said in the beginning, Ford sells a lot of Explorers, and they really made the effort to make this thing good. So I see the appeal. I'm not entirely happy with the compromise space. If you're lifting up the third row, there's almost no space left for the trunk. With that said, the passengers will be pretty comfortable. These Huskies, they're so awesome. Yep, just so you know, I am in Virginia. This is how I got into snow. Anyway, the car really delivers. It's comfortable. So I said about third row. The second row is actually heated, which is of course nice. And I'm impressed by how good the four-cylinder works here. I can only imagine how good the ST trim is. Which is not really a true ST. I own a true ST and it's not an SUV. Period. Anyway, my microphone battery died, so I'm gonna lay down my final 2 cents here. The new Ford Explorer is really good, and I rarely say that about any car. But here's the catch though. I drove a mid-range trim with a base engine and many technologies Ford has already used in the past. Now, the higher trims have new, more advanced features that may or may not work well. So keep that in mind when you go out to test drive one, and you definitely should because this vehicle deserves your attention. So thank you all for watching, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.